Hi, this is Rick Cromie, and welcome to Oral Communication and our final component in our course on how to improve your public speaking and presentation skills. And what I want to talk about today is how to inspire your audience. How to inspire your audience, because if they're not inspired, you're not going to be influential and you're definitely not going to make an impact with them. So the purpose of an inspirational speech, let's just start right there, is to motivate an audience to improve personally, emotionally, professionally, or spiritually. It's going to encourage listeners to experience greater success, adopt higher goals or ideals, or contribute to the success or goals of an organization. The most common inspirational speeches are those like commencement addresses or speeches to motivate business or sports teams, political rally speeches, or of course, for many of us, we're very familiar with the sermon, the Sunday sermon. An inspirational speech brings an audience together in a mood of fellowship and shared desire. It builds the audience's enthusiasm, then proposes a plan and appeals to the audience to follow this plan. The inspirational speech relies more heavily on emotional appeal than on logical appeal, found in the other types of persuasive speeches. Do you hear me there? It's very important to understand that the inspirational speech speaks to the heart first. And in truth, every great message does that. Every great sermon starts by speaking to the heart first. I know a lot of times we want to, open up their heads and pour in all this new information, all these great insights, all these ideas that we have. But unless you motivate from the heart and give a reason to want to adopt and to swallow and ingest those ideas and those insights, you're basically chasing the wind as a speaker. So it's very important that you rely heavily on the emotional appeal. So what you want to do is connect with the listener's feelings. You want to connect with their fears, even their goals at that particular time and occasion. You want to explain why and how the situation is changing, or why these feelings, fears, and goals may be inadequate or counterproductive. You want to motivate and challenge listeners to adopt higher, nobler feelings, values, and goals, including the benefits. Here's why it's so important to do this. Because if you do this, you will live a better life, or you will have a better situation. So let's talk about connecting with the audience. You see, to inspire listeners, you must speak to a desire, need, or concern that they already feel, or one that they may not yet have recognized. Psychologist Abraham Maslow identified 5 human needs. He talked about physiological needs, things like air and food, drink, sleep, shelter, warmth. He talked about safety needs, such as security, stability, protection from harm, structure, or orderliness. He mentioned belongingness and love as another need, acceptance and approval, affection, being part of a group. He mentioned esteem, self-esteem, self-respect, self-confidence, achievement, reputation, prestige, recognition, status, competence, independence. And then finally, he talked about self-actualization. And this was the realization of potential, self-fulfillment. If you tap into and build onto those needs in your speech or your sermon or your message or your training presentation, you're going to be able to inspire your audience. Now, for this type of speech, a thorough understanding of the occasion and listeners is essential. What is the purpose of your talk? What message do you want to convey? What are the listeners' backgrounds? What needs do they have? What is unique about them? What are they thinking? What do they want to hear? And then using this information, you can better address their needs and concerns and develop a plan to inspire them. This is one of the hazards, one of the problems, are not really problems, but one of the scenarios that every professional speaker has when we go to places that we've never been to before. In fact, I often, when I go into a place that I've never been to before, I try to get in there a day early. I try to walk around and see the sights of what the community is like, what the area is like. I try to get an understanding. I read the local newspaper and watch the local news to hear some of the stories that are out there making an impact and influencing the community, because all those can be bridges for when I talk and when I speak to that audience the next day. Another thing you can do is, as you review these Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is you can process them through, your audience. As you're thinking about what you want to inspire them to do, you need to ask, are there any safety needs involved here? Are there any belonging or affiliation needs that are needed? Are there any esteem needs? Those are all very important. Before you can inspire these people to welcome the changes ahead and strive to perform to the best of their abilities, you must address these concerns at each level. After all, a person's going to have difficulty embracing a noble cause like helping whatever, helping the company, helping the organization, helping, the church to become more productive if they're worried about something, in the process. If they're worried about losing their job, for example, they're going to be hard pressed to want to know, how do I help this company? So you need to appeal to some more baser needs at times. You want to ensure people that they have security, that they're valued as people individually and as a team if you're dealing with a team situation. You want to recognize their contributions and speak to their potential that they have. Once listeners realize that you understand their concerns and recognize their accomplishments, they're going to be more receptive to your message. So let's talk about how to change the status quo, because that's very important. After connecting with the audience, your next step is to explain why and how changes will be occurring, or why listeners' current attitudes, feelings, values, concerns, hopes, desires, fears, and goals may be inadequate or even counterproductive. For example, let's say you're giving a commencement speech and you could discuss how students are leaving the safety and security of their school, their friends and families to enter the business world or university life, the ways in which their lives are going to change and the challenges that they will encounter. In an inspirational speech at a political rally, you could discuss how and why the current political leadership came into power, their mistakes, and how these mistakes have affected the community and listeners themselves, and how listeners' complacency will allow more mistakes to happen. See, you always want to start with, here's what it is. Here's what it is. And this is why we need to change. Or this is what it is, and this is where you're going. This is the new chapter, and this is what it is, but this is where you're going. That's inspiring just to say. The last portion of an inspirational speech is devoted to the need for change. Change what? Well, what type of change are the listeners going to need to do? What do they need to be thinking about? What are the benefits that the change is going to bring for everyone involved? You think about commencement, it's not just about the students, it's about the parents. Parents will be going through some changes too. You motivate and challenge listeners to adopt higher, nobler attitudes, feelings, values, hopes, desires, behaviors, and goals, and then you elaborate on the advantages these changes are going to bring. In some situations, you may want to mention the struggles that will be encountered in the process and what will happen to those who don't cooperate or try to prevent the change from happening. For example, if your purpose is to motivate a sales team, let's talk about business here for a moment. Maybe you want to motivate a sales team to achieve some new goals. You could explain why the goals are necessary and introduce the new sales plan. Then you could explain the advantages of this plan. You appeal to their pride and professionalism towards their work and towards the company. You point out that those who don't help the company move forward will not have a place in the organization. But those who do, well, they're going to have some new opportunities and will experience the excitement of being part of a winning team. This is going to then re-energize their enthusiasm and commitment to the company and to the sales goals. So how do you say it? Well, you say it by adding drama and impact to your speech. How do you do that? Well, one way that you can do this is to use quotes, stories, and anecdotes throughout the speech or message or sermon. Human interest stories and anecdotes about overcoming adversity and achieving success attract the audience's interest and add meaning to your message. Very powerful tool. Secondly, use language that unites listeners and establishes a bond between you and them, such as you and we. We're in this together. You and I, we're experiencing this. Third, use vivid words that allow listeners to visualize all of the good things that will happen if they do what you say needs to be done. Fourth, use action verbs. Use action verbs to convey power. And then finally, use positive words, not criticism, to stir them to action. You always want to stay in the positive. Don't go negative with an audience. A lot of preachers do this in particular, and it backfires. It backfires when you go negative. This type of speech, more than any other, depends on the quality and style of your delivery. Your presentation should be direct and urgent, showing that you really care about your listeners and about how they react. You've got to prove to your listeners that you're sincere and you believe in your message. Be confident and forceful. Show enthusiasm and vitality. Use body language to demonstrate your conviction. Your gestures should convey energy and power. Your conclusion should be emotionally powerful and dynamic. It should challenge listeners or demand that they commit to your cause. And the conclusion should dramatize the benefits of doing so. And then you want to finish with a memorable final statement. You see, to inspire an audience, whether it's a speech or a message, a presentation, or a sermon on Sunday morning, you have to, first of all, hook them emotionally. Hook them with some reasons that you want. They need to hear this. You almost want to reach out and take them by the collar and say, you need to hear this. This is great. This is cool. This is important. This is urgent. This is life. This is life stuff, man. You've got to know it. That's why I'm preaching to you right now. You've got to know this stuff. You have got to know this stuff if you want to communicate with power and with purpose. And then once you get their attention, you build the case. You talk about what is, why it's not working, why it's not the best, why there's weaknesses. And as you build that case, you start to lay out the plan, you start to lay out the program, you lay out the purpose of what you're talking about, and you put together the pegs in there that support your inspirational message. And whether you're trying to sell them something, or you're trying to persuade them, you're inspiring or perspiring them, whatever it is, you put it in place there, and you build that logical strategy, that logical support. And again, this is where you've got to do your research. You got to do your research. A lot of preachers get out there and they talk on emotion, but they haven't done their research on the passage, and it falls flat. In fact, a lot of times it's doctrinally anemic and biblically weak. And then once you get to that point where you've got the people listening and they understand the plan and they're ready to say yes, you move them into conclusion to say yes. Come on, let's go. Stand up. Move forward. Move out. Come forward. Whatever it is. I want you to pick up my resource at the back. I want you to sign up for my mailing list. Whatever it is you want them to do, you get them to do it at the very end. You inspire them towards that end. I'd like to inspire you to keep in touch with me as well. Keep in touch with me at Facebook. If you've not connected with me at Facebook, I hope you will do that. I try to connect with all of my students. I would love to have you be connected with me, and so we can continue these conversations if you have questions or just need a friend. Also, I encourage you to check out my website, www.rickcromie.com. I have lots of resources for people who are involved in leadership and education and parenting. And I also do workshops. I'd love to come to your business, your organization, your school, or your church and train your own people. Train your own team, your own staff, consult with you and to help you out. Give me a call. I'd love to do that. Put you on my calendar and get out to your place as soon as possible. And finally, there are lots of ways that you can help me. And some people just believe in the message that I'm doing. And I travel a lot into foreign countries. And I've started doing this. And I'm looking for people that just want to get behind me and give me $10 or $15 or even more. And help me get to other countries where I can deliver these type of messages to the leaders and teachers and parents there. I can't do it myself. I do it because people support me, and I'm so thankful for that. So if you're interested in that, feel free to contact me as well. I'm always taking another trip somewhere, someplace, and can use some financial, and if nothing else, prayer support. Just your prayers. That's really very important too. Okay, this week you have one assignment. One assignment, basically, other than watching our instructional video here. You need to create an 8 to 10 minute speech, and this needs to be filmed in front of a live audience. The topic can be any topic of choice. This final speech must show evidence of research, organization, use of visual aids, and preparation. I want you to upload it to YouTube. or Vimeo, submit the notes, post the link. I look forward to seeing it. And so finally, thanks. Thanks for coming along with me and partnering with me and let me share a little bit of what I've learned in public speaking and oral communication and presentation with you. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey. God bless you.